If this Baltimore Ravens team was around 20, 25, 30 years ago, they might be the premier team in the National Football League. They might indeed have been a dynasty. When you look at how this team is structured, what they do well, it's well suited for the 80s and even the early to mid 90s, even a little bit after that. Play really good defense, be able to run the ball and run the ball very well, play well on the road, minimize turnovers. Like this team and the way it is structured, almost feels kind of out of place. As you look at him the past couple of years, you get the dynamic kind of dual purpose threat of Lamar Jackson. He has an MVP season, but comes up short in the playoffs. Then for this team, they get a little bit of a measure of revenge in the wild card round against the Titans, beat them, but then they go and play Buffalo and look really bad, kind of got embarrassed, even though the score wasn't that significant in terms of the difference. I just wonder sometimes when I look at this Ravens team, like without some changes, are they always going to be that team that can win a number of games in the regular season, but when it gets to the playoffs, you really just don't take them that seriously? Because in today's NFL, even when you get to the playoffs, you have to be able to score points through the air. You have to be able to hit big plays in the passing game, and a big problem for this Ravens team the past couple of years, they're very much a front runner. I don't mean that as a disrespect, but the reality is that they're a team that if it's close or they've got a bit of a lead, they're structured very well to finish a game out when that happens. If they get down early and down a little bit early, they're in trouble. They're not really a team designed for makeup mode. And I know a lot of people are going to focus on Lamar Jackson and his evolution and his development as a passer, but it obviously is more than that. So now going into this season, like you look at the moves that this team made in the offseason, it's kind of a mixed bag. Lose some guys, bring some guys in, kind of standard operating procedure for the Baltimore Ravens. In free agency, they lost guys like Matthew Judon and Yannick Ngakoue, Mark Ingram, Willie Snead. Then you had kind of the surprising trade where they sent Orlando Brown Jr. To the Kansas City Chiefs. Feels kind of weird that you would help out a contending team, somebody that you're trying to catch up to, and give them a first-round pick. It still, to me, feels a little weird. We'll see if that pays off for him, because Orlando Brown Jr. certainly was trying to get himself in a position where he could get a big-time left tackle type of contract, which I understand and I get, especially in today's NFL. Again, the right tackle position is basically the same level of importance as a left tackle. As much as edge rushers and pass rushers move around in NFL defenses, the importance of protecting the blind side is still there, but you got to protect the other side too. They brought in guys like Kevin Zeitler and Alejandro Villanueva to help out that offensive line. Jawan James as well brought in Sammy Watkins because they needed some help in that receiving core. Even though he's not like a notable, big, huge addition, he is certainly somebody that can come in and contribute. You've got Justin Houston was brought in as well. So I give the Ravens this, is that they had some turnover in their roster, but they did bring in some guys that they feel could potentially help them. When you look at the draft, in part because of that Orlando Brown Jr. trade to the Chiefs, they had 2 first-round picks. I think nobody was surprised that Rashad Bateman was the pick at 27. You just felt like, even though Ozzie Newsome's not in charge anymore, it felt like an Ozzie Newsome, Baltimore Ravens type of wide receiver, and you take that for everything that's meant to imply. Then getting Jason Owe, the edge rusher from Penn State, late in round 1. You're talking about a team that always seems to every couple of years cycle through their outside linebackers, cycle through their edge rushers, and this is just another continuation in that cycle. This was a team, though, that had to address the wide receiver position, because as easy it is to blame Lamar and as easy as it is to focus on Lamar, there's absolutely no doubt that you look at this Baltimore Ravens offense, and there just weren't many dynamic weapons in the passing game. There's nobody that really scared you, nobody that could consistently take the top off of the defense, nobody that consistently worried opposing defenses. I'm not sure that they still have that guy, but their unit is certainly slated and positioned to be better in 2021. Looking at this team on paper heading into the season, we talk about the strengths. First and foremost is going to be the running game. Even with Mark Ingram leaving, he was being phased out by the end of the year. even with the season-ending knee injury to J.K. Dobbins, that one stings a little bit. You invest a second-round pick on a guy, expect him to be the dude in 2021 or be a big part of the package in the backfield, and then he's not going to be there. You still have Gus Edwards, and obviously you have Lamar Jackson. I have full faith and confidence in this Baltimore Ravens offense to figure out how they're going to run the football. They will still be able to do that, I would presume, at a pretty high level, which, again, is a key for success for them. And then when you look at their defense, they're a pretty good defensive unit in general. Their pass defense in particular is really, really good. And on top of that, when you look at the running game and the defense, and they also play really well on the road. When you look at the past 2 seasons, last year they were 6-2 on the road. The year before that they were 7-1. So when you talk about the regular season, and this is where the positives come in terms of how this team is kind of structured and how they're built, is that they're a team that what they do travels well. What they do comes into play well in away venues. And when you're talking about a team and trying to think about things that'll put you over the top or things that'll make a difference in terms of at least playoff positioning during the regular season, it's that ability to hold up on the road. It's the ability to do your thing on the road. It's that ability to play well on the road that makes a difference. And it has for the Ravens the past couple of seasons. But I think when I look at this team, still have a couple of question marks that remain from previous years. The offensive line is probably a little bit more of a question mark they have been in previous years. Just, I look at the Orlando Brown Jr. trade, and, is Villanueva going to step in and play at a similar level? I doubt that. What has Zeitler got left in the tank? So there are some questions about this offensive line. The wide receiving core. Yes, you signed Sammy Watkins. Yes, you drafted Rashad Bateman. Yes, you got Hollywood Brown. But, does that unit really scare you? The reality is that if this Ravens team wants to go from in the mix to being that type of championship team, they're going to have to get better, more consistent, and more explosive in the passing game. And again, as easy as it is to always focus on the quarterback, if your weapons can't find a way to get it done, if they can't find a way to get separation, if they can't find a way to make big plays, and you have to structure a much more conservative offense around Lamar, it's not really going to matter at the end of the day. And Lamar's a bit of a question too. Like, sometimes I think he gets crapped on a little bit too much in terms of his abilities as a passer. There's certain stigmas that get attached to him that are fair, unfair in this particular case based off of what he does on the field. But this team has overhauled their receiving core a little bit. He's going to have to take a step forward this year as a passer. He may never be a Tom Brady type, an Aaron Rodgers type, or even as a passer, in the category of other guys such as a Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Mahomes. He's not going to be guys like that. But if he can advance a little bit as a passer, it makes that offense more explosive. It makes that offense harder to game plan for. It makes that offense tougher to stop. It also opens up the running game. It keeps more balance in that offense, makes them harder to predict, like just a lot of things. And last year, some of the COVID stuff, and then just looking at it, like, wasn't the worst year for Lamar, but certainly coming off of an MVP year, you probably would have hoped for a little bit better. He's got to be better in this passing game, and this offense of the Ravens has to be better in all facets in 2021 if they want to take a step forward. As I look ahead to this schedule, there's some games that stand out to me. Week 2, hosting Kansas City. Now, if they want to be taken seriously this year as not just like a second-tier contender, but a top-tier contender in this conference, they've got to find a way to beat Kansas City in Week 2. They've got to find a way to get over that hump. Then I look at weeks 5 through 9. There's a bye week mixed in there, but this is a chance for the Ravens to really make some hay because in that 5-week stretch, the 4 games that they play are all home games. How the hell that worked out in their schedule, I don't know, but a real chance to make some hay. They host Indy, the Chargers, Cincinnati, Minnesota. You really like to, if you're the Ravens, win no worse than 3 of those games and maybe all 4 of them, especially when you're thinking about potentially banging with Cleveland or if Pittsburgh has a good year again. You're going to need to be able to handle your business in this 4-game home stretch. But I look at the last 7 games of the season, it's really going to tell you everything about the Ravens this year. You got Cleveland twice. In between that, you've got a road game against the Steelers. You got a host Green Bay in Week 15. Go to Cincinnati in Week 16. And the last 2 games, yes, they're at home, but it's against the Rams and the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is not an easy stretch of schedule to close out the year. So this team's going to have to win games early, and I hope they can find a way to win some of these late in order to be in the mix and position themselves as a potential contender. For the Ravens this year, I think at the end of the day, I think they're kind of similar to what they were last year. A 10, 11 win type of team. I think they go 11-6. Certainly wouldn't surprise me if they won this division. Certainly wouldn't surprise me if they ended up third. But for now, I think I'm going to go with the team that is still structured relatively well for regular season success, with a quarterback that can do some impressive dynamic things. Assume that they may have improved a little bit in the passing game, but that's going to matter the most ultimately when he gets to the playoffs. I think they're going to finish like 11-6 and finish second in this division. That's right, folks. You're doing recall, and you said Bengals fourth, Steelers third, Ravens second. No. Yes. You know who that means I think's winning this division this year? It feels so odd to even say that.